8-0 and a half a season to go. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers still unbeaten in 2022. Welcome inside Bonfire Midweek. Darren Bombing to my virtual right, Zach Schnitzer. What's going on, Schnitz? You were in Calgary.
Oh.
You weren't even at the game.
Buddy, it was excruciating. I literally could have walked there in 10 minutes, and we're at this. We were at a nice restaurant. Don't get me wrong, Calgary's beautiful, family first and all that. But my father-in-law and my mother-in-law and I had the game going on our phone, but I kept having to run off and take care of my son, who was just an animal. He's not a good dude at a restaurant, so I didn't even catch much of it. But what a win, though, man. Like, what a win. Unbelievable. So sad that I couldn't actually see it. I was trying to connect with Bomber Woman and Tasha, game manager lady, and damn, they were at the game. They had fun, but yeah. I'm a family guy. It is what it is.
No, hey, family first. Family and health first always. But for those who were in attendance or those who watched or listened to the game, like, what an absolute classic that was. The two best teams, hands down, in my opinion, in the CFL. BC Lions probably going to definitely make a conversation out of that in the weeks and months to come. But they went toe-to-toe. I thought Calgary did a lot of very, very good things.
Oh, yeah.
Especially early in the game, Zach. We'll get into it. We will get into it, but let's talk about what we got going today. Can you still hear me? I keep having
I just can't see your video. You've disappeared like the Invisible Man.
I have disappeared.
But you're talking.
And I know what's wrong, but I'm going to fix it. So anyway,
the first step, admitting something's wrong.
But we're going to keep, the show must go on, as they say here on Bonfire Midweek. We're going to keep it going. We are going to take a quick trip around CFL Week 8, recap the 4 games that we saw. It was all interdivision play, and of course, the game of the week. We will talk lots about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers win in Calgary. We're going to hear from Dalton Schoen. He spoke after practice today. We'll hear from Willie Jefferson, as well as offensive coordinator Buck Pierce. And I had a couple questions for head coach Mike O'Shea. We will hear all of that on the show tonight. But Zach, of course, the main event was on Saturday night. What an unbelievable game it was in Calgary on Saturday.
Oh, there's so much to talk about with that. But mind you, you and Mike just killed it. I did listen to that After Dark show. I was dying to be on there with you guys, but you guys killed it. I mean, I don't have a whole lot else I can add, Mr. Smarty Pants Mike still. But there's a few things that just stuck out to me that I'll talk about in a few minutes, man. But just like the red zone. The red zone proficiency of the Bombers. I mean, that was the separation in this game. It was one of the cleanest games I've ever seen, really. And we'll talk about that. And then we can't talk about this game without talking about how good Nick Hallett was. I thought he was going to be a liability. And then, of course, Dalton Schoen, Nick Demsky coming back, and this team killing other teams on second down. And, of course, the run game comes to play. So, I mean, it was another classic between these two teams. And then, of course, Bo couldn't keep his mouth shut after. So just love. There's just so much there, man. It was great. And again, Dalton Schoen, I don't know if we can talk about this guy enough. Like, just off the top, let me throw this at you.
Let's hear it.
Who does it remind you of in terms of a raw rookie coming in and lighting up the league? I mean, he leads the league in touchdowns. I have some other stats we'll talk about later, but like, what's the analogous player here? This guy is unbelievable. Is it Darrell Walker who came in and lit it up? I don't know.
Brandon Zylstra,
maybe.
Yep. Well, and we remember what happened to him. He had those 2 big years in the CFL with Edmonton, and then off he was and has been in the NFL since. I like this comment from Waiters, who's watching amongst many on YouTube live here on Bonfire Sports. Winnipeg champ Peters. Hard to argue that right now. The Blue Bombers look nearly unstoppable. Of course, I'm curious if this upcoming game is maybe a trap game we
Yeah.
will discuss as we go. But quickly, let's take a quick trip around the CFL Week 8. It started in Hamilton on Thursday with the Alouettes in town, and the Ticats let Montreal right back into the game.
Yeah.
The injury spotter pulls Trevor Harris on the final play, and Dom Davis throws it short of the end zone and incomplete. And the Ticats come away with a 24-17 victory. That was a wild one.
It was, and I felt bad for Harris because he got him back in it, and the Ticats got a bad penalty at the end there. Coach O did not look happy, but anyway, did you think that it was a fair call by the injury spotter?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
That's
mean
what they're there for.
he got hit hard.
Yep.
That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to protect the players, whether you like it or not. I mean, listen, it happened to us, and we were able to overcome it. But our backup is a little bit better than Dom Davis. We had Dom Davis. We got rid of him for a reason. Guy can't throw the ball consistently. I thought he should have just ran for it, and I believe it wasn't even third down. I think he had a couple downs. Maybe run it. You know, that's his bread and butter. But yeah, hey, Mr. Bombing called it. Third in the power rankings.
Fourth.
Hamilton Tiger fourth.
Fourth. Yeah.
Now are they third?
I had no. I had Calgary 2, BC 3, and Montreal 4. Or pardon me. Hamilton at 4, of course. I had Montreal way down at the bottom with Ottawa, but Hamilton is in Toronto this coming week.
That's what I was gonna say, man.
Like now we're gonna see. And the Argos are 2-point favorites at home, which is usually a 3-point favorite for that home field advantage. Of course, there will be many Ticats fans in attendance for that game. I know some people in Hamilton that are Argos season ticket holders because they're literally a quarter of the price. A quarter of the price. Might take an hour to get there on the train, but you know, they go to the games and enjoy themselves. So welcome,
hilarious.
Joe, who's joining us from Montreal. Hope you're there to take in the game as well. But either way, the Ticats, I firmly believe, are coming on. That East is wide open. I know I made some errors in my speaking of the points and win totals in the East Division last week, but I will confidently say it is still wide open. Oh, yes, it is.
It
Friday,
is wide open, man.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's anybody's. And I don't even think it's going to be Toronto. I think that's a sinking ship.
Oh, man. You can't pardon that pun. You cannot pardon that pun. And Joe, awesome, buddy. I just loved meeting you here in Winnipeg. It's so awesome that we've got a fan from Wisconsin, and he's a diehard, man. He tweeted me a picture of him from the 2019 Grey Cup with his Bombers too. Such a great guy, and great that you're repping the blue in Montreal. I mean, listen, can I just say something though? I mean, we saw what happened when Marcus Sales gave them bulletin board material, the Bombers, that is, with the vanilla offense. And now Gary Stern, the owner, is saying we're going to beat you.
Wow.
And then you had Victor Cui with that, you know, the thing with the big elk player that was going to stomp on the plane. Like, have you not figured out, like, this team does not need any more motivation?
Zach, hang on a second. I'm going to speak to you like everybody else out there that can't believe what Bo Levi Mitchell's saying, that can't believe what Gary Stern or Victor Cui is saying, that can't believe what Dave Dickinson is saying, or pardon me, Craig Dickinson, head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, what he's saying in Regina today. Newsflash, nobody is going to crown any other team. Nobody is going to crap on their own team and their own team's chances of winning. It doesn't matter if you have 1 or 2 wins this season.
I understand.
You're going to say, hey, we're going to keep working. We're going to keep putting it. Do you remember Mike O'Shea in 2015? Do you remember that head coach? Everybody thought, like, what is he talking about? We can't block. We can't tackle. We can't score touchdowns. It's about establishing culture. They've seen it work in Winnipeg. Everybody is doing the same thing now. You hear the message Paul Apolice is saying. You hear the message that so many others are saying. You don't give up. So, yeah.
Of course not. But you don't give up, but you don't say you're going to win either. You don't see the Bombers doing that.
It's the owner.
Still, it doesn't matter. That gets into the locker room, Darren, doesn't it? Doesn't Willie Jefferson hear that? And Adam Biggill hear that?
You
and they
don't
lick
hear.
their chops.
I know Wade Miller is not the owner of the team. He's the president and CEO. But haven't you heard Wade Miller say, we're going to be in the West Final and we're going to win it and we're going to go to the Grey Cup? Of course he does.
Maybe.
Come on.
I don't know. I don't know if I've
Come
heard
on.
him say that. I
It's
don't. And if he says it kind of like a fan. This guy
because he's
comes
an
up.
executive.
Wow.
He's not in the football operations. That's all I'm
I
saying.
just think you don't. The Bombers are on the road for a third week in a row on a short week. They still have a lot of injuries. Arguably, their best receiver is out in Ellingson. Jeffcoat's probably, I would imagine, Darren, you know better. They're going to rest him again. We're getting way
Maybe.
ahead of ourselves, but like, come on, you don't need to give them any more bulletin board material.
Wow, they're not. They don't care. They don't care. I honestly, like, hand
All
to the
right.
heavens. The Blue Bombers do not care what anybody says. They don't. But yes, let's
Whoops.
continue our trip around the CFL. Speaking of the Rough Riders, they were host to the BC
Headphones fell out.
Lions.
Sorry, Darren.
Oh,
We're
that's
having
all good.
technical difficulties here. We're just getting too excited. I know they don't care what anyone says, but they do. But the vanilla thing, it lit a fire. Like that got them out. That got them fired up. Did it not? Didn't the players say that after?
Sure. Yep. Yep. No, it was a little disrespect for sure. I think it's because it came from a former teammate in Marcus Sales. But Zach, I'm going to move on to the Rough Riders. Rough Riders hosted the BC Lions this past week on Friday night. Nathan Rourke put up another monster game, 336 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And once again, so very accurate and efficient with the football, 82% passing. James Butler, 77 yards on the ground. Keon Hatcher was the latest, second big game of the season for Keon Hatcher and the BC Lions. He put up 110 yards on 7 catches. Cody Fajardo, just doesn't have the same juice he had in his West Division MOP season in 2019. Jamal Morrow, still a very good tailback, but they weren't in position to run the football. He only had 8 carries. Duke Williams gets lots of targets, but just not a lot of production.
Dropped the ball a bunch of times this year on second down.
Yep. But I have raved about the Jason Shivers defense in Saskatchewan for the last number of years. But the BC Lions flexed their offensive muscle in Regina. The Rough Riders are in really, really tough right now, Zach. They've got a very high hill to climb if they want to get back into the playoff conversation, or they could just, coast into a East Division crossover.
East Division crossover. We talked about this last week. Don't sleep on the Elks, right? The Elks and Riders games. There's 2 more of them, and with the Riders slipping, and with the Chris Jones defense and Taylor Cornelius maybe coming on a little bit, Darren, I don't know. Like I look at the Riders, and I'm a Bomber fan, as you all know. I'm wearing my jersey right now, just because I'm overcompensating for being so close to the game and not going. But listen, a Rider loss is 75% as good as a Bomber win for Bomber fans. If they lose, we're just like, right? Yes.
Is that your number?
Yes. I like that. My mother-in-law is still married to the Riders a bit. She cheers for them because her dad was a team doctor. She grew up in Regina, and I get that. But man, it was great. They were running away with it, and my father-in-law and I were arguing about, hey, like. He's saying, BC's really good. And I said, I don't know. They might come back down to earth. They've got the Jason Shivers defense that Darren Bombing's talking about. And Darren Bombing knows a couple of things, maybe not 3 things, but he knows a couple of things. And sure enough, you know what it is though? I think the Riders defense is great and they make big plays, but they just left him on. They hung him out to dry, that offense. And from what I saw, and I'm not an expert, but when you make Cody Fajardo stay in the pocket, when he's not as mobile,
right?
And what I see from him is he does one of 2 things. Oh, I like that, Zach, for mayor. Very good, very good.
Is it you or Claris?
Oh yeah. Good point. Probably Colaris.
No, it's probably you. It's probably you.
Listen. Oh, yeah, Jay. Get Jay on there because we do have to give a shout out to this puck placard. I'm totally
Oh,
this is the digression
yeah,
Tuesday.
big time. Big time.
But
See if we
what
can.
I see
There we
from
go.
Fajardo, Darren, and people can chime in on the chat, is he either throws it deep and throws to his first read deep, or he throws to his hot route. And I don't know if that's because of the offensive line issues they have there, that they're a little bit suspect, but I don't see him ever read a defense and pick out the second, third, fourth read. I just don't see it unless he's on the run, unless he's rolling out.
He needs his legs. No
He
question
needs
at
his
all.
legs to get going.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a cerebral guy. I don't
Ooh,
think he knows.
that's
I don't know,
harsh,
man.
man. That's
Well,
harsh.
if you're not reading the defense, I mean, look at
Well,
Drew
who says he's not
Brown.
reading? Who says he's not reading the defense? It's very likely, in my opinion, Cody Fajardo is at like 65% health. That's what I think.
Still, let's see when he's at let's see when he's at full health, if he's mobile. You saw the Bombers when they contain his mobility, he can't score touchdowns on them. But hey, maybe I'm being too harsh. I am a Bomber fan, so
Yeah.
I just see
Oh,
this
I gotta
team
reel you. I gotta
really.
reel you in, buddy. I gotta
Yeah,
reel you in.
I see the Riders like really tanking right now. Like they've I don't what's their next few games like? I don't even know. I'm putting you on the spot, but
So they are on a bye,
yeah,
which I'm sure is welcome right now. And then they are in Edmonton in week 10. They are home to BC in week 11. And then they are in BC week 12. So 2 games against BC out of their next 3. And then, of course, Labor Day Classic in week 13. So they better get a win in Edmonton. They
they
better get
better. Exactly what I
at
was
least
thinking.
one win against the BC Lions in their home
Yeah.
and home, or they're going to be in really, really tough. They're sitting at 4
Yeah.
and 4, right ahead of them. The Calgary Stampeders at 4 and 2. So the third game, obviously, we are going to talk about a little bit later, and that is the Bombers Stampeders game. Winnipeg, 8th win of the season, 35-28. But the final game of the slate in week 8, Zach, was a fun game to watch. It was a 23-13 victory, the first of the season for the Ottawa Redblacks. Caleb Evans went 83% passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 286 yards. He was named a CFL top performer this week, along with Nathan Rourke and Zach Collaros. So elite air that he's in, at least for this past week. Jalen Acklin, the story of this game, 7 catches for 144 yards and a tutty. Of that 144, 70 yards after the catch.
Yeah.
You give that guy time and space with the football in his hands, he's going to kill you like a Nick Demsky, maybe even more dangerous.
Yeah, he's the yak master, and Ryan Davis
Really
was
is.
back in the lineup, so he had another weapon. I don't see Caleb Evans coming off the starting role there. Do you?
Well, I think when Jeremiah Masoli is healthy, it's a conversation. I don't think he's going to get Wally pipped.
He looked good. Like he was
He
patient with
did
the
look good.
ball. He
He did
could
look good.
run.
Yep.
He actually like he had a little bit of a sidearm action. I don't know if you one of his touchdowns. Like he reminded me a little bit of Zach Collaros, like buying time. I'm not going to say he's Zach Collaros yet, but
he's athletic though. He is athletic. He can
He
extend
buys
plays.
time. He can
I
make
just
all
don't
the
know.
throws.
I'm not seeing a ton of refinement in his game, but I think that will come. And, Dave Naylor speaking to it today, Dave Naylor, TSN, of course, good friend of Bonfire, stating that, second year quarterback development, so important in the Canadian Football League. Caleb Evans getting that opportunity with the BC Lions. Of course, you want to talk second year quarterbacks, it's Nathan Rourke and then the rest. He's really continuing to be, outside of the Bombers, 8-0 start to the season, probably the story in the CFL this so far.
Yeah, he's a story. And our good friend Nick Kowalski said he was the best quarterback in the league in training camp, and
he was saying
we all
that
kind of laughed at him, like, really? And boy, the guy is money. I mean, it's scary as a Bomber fan to see what this guy's going to turn into. Even, we've got a late back-to-back with BC, and we may have the West wrapped up by then. And that's another conversation.
Well,
it actually gives me a little bit of concern.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I don't know
Yeah,
if they're going to have it wrapped up by then, because if BC keeps their foot on the
right.
gas,
Yeah,
those two final games, week 19 and week 21, the Bombers have a bye in between those two, in Vancouver on October 15th, back here in Winnipeg on October 28th to wrap the regular season. That could very, very well determine uh, who wins the West. Like,
yeah,
I understand Winnipeg is kind of head and shoulders above everybody else because of the way they beat BC in the
yeah.
first game, but the Lions can still win the season series if they're able to take both of those
Sure, they
games.
can.
And they could easily continue to roll. They've got one loss, like they're
Yeah.
right behind Winnipeg. They just already had two buys, so it's going to be a tougher down the stretch for them.
Yeah, and they are missing Brian Burnham. They have Rick Campbell, who's a good head coach, Corey Maxim, who's doing a great job on and the offensive
Yeah.
coordinating. They have, as you've said many times, they've got an all-star list of DBs, right? It's just that D line that maybe isn't getting home as much as you'd want, and we were able to run the ball. But as everyone knows, it's the long season, and a CFL team can look completely different
Yeah.
in August or July than November. I mean, it's so early. It's just that what's interesting.
The Hamilton
Hamilton,
Tiger Cats.
sure. Well, we all remember the 1-6 2011 BC Lions. Bit of a nightmare for us, but we beat them twice, and then they hammered us in the Grey Cup. But yeah, you don't know, like injuries and look at the Bombers picking up Zach Collaros October 2019. I mean, look at that. But it's an interesting schedule for the Bombers. They're 8-0, but they've gone through arguably maybe the toughest part of their schedule, Darren. And then they're going to get all their bye weeks at such a great time. Get healthy, get rolling, But what I don't want to see is what I saw last year. We all had that debate where, rest versus rust, and it ended up being rust. Like they were rusty as hell
Mhm.
in that Western final, giving up 6 turnovers and barely scraping out a win against a team that I think everyone would agree was highly beatable. Like it shouldn't have been a 4-point game. So just things as a Bomber fan, I'm looking down the road and just some concerns.
Well, like Waiters mentions, and I got the comment up on the screen. After this week's game in Montreal, Winnipeg's remaining schedule: 6 home games, 3 on the road, and then all 3 of their buys. Those road games in Saskatchewan for the Labor Day Classic, in Hamilton in mid-September, and then in Vancouver in mid-October. Which it's been a tough slog here for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. To that point, Zach, let's hear from head coach Mike O'Shea. I asked him about some of the issues, going into this first half schedule. Goes into a week like this where you're not able to maybe practice as much as other weeks.
I mean, the players have a great understanding of what they're doing. We've been in this situation before. I think you rely on your prep from previous weeks. You rely on your fitness level that you've been maintaining for, since before you got to training camp. So, really, it's take great care with your bodies. Make sure you're well rested. Make sure you're putting the right things in your body, and just make sure you're physically ready to go.
A lot has been said about this stretch of 3 road games and the buys and the rest, but is this kind of a dig deep time for the team?
I don't think so. Once again, I think the guys have a great understanding of how to handle a pile of different situations. They've been building this for a number of years, right? So it just kind of rolls along. I'm not sure that's digging deeper than any other week, right? If you don't play your best, somebody's going to beat you, no matter what. So, buys, time off, days off, all that stuff doesn't really enter into a lot of discussion.
That's impressive. Do you got any health update for us? Anybody in and out this week?
The CFL mandated injury report will be released sometime later today.
I'm waiting with bated breath. Thank you. Head coach Mike O'Shea from earlier today.
Speaking of bait, that guy just doesn't take the bait. I
No,
mean, what is it
no.
like to interview him, DB? It's an art form.
Yeah, you have to pick your words carefully, of course. But like we're doing our job, right? We have to ask the
You
questions.
have
If
to.
he
Yeah.
wants to, if he wants to answer them, he'll answer them. If he doesn't, he doesn't have to. But the reality is, I sincerely am impressed if those things do not come into the conversation about it being a short week and the preparations and plans for the health of the team. Like, don't think for a second the Bombers don't take that into account. But as far as the collective mentality of the team, they know they got to dig deep when they go into Calgary. They know they have to dig deep when their vanilla offense goes into Vancouver to face the then unbeaten BC Lions. They know they have to dig deep in week 20, however it shakes out. I understand where Mike O'Shea is coming from. I also understand that this stretch of 3 road games and playing on Saturday, coming home, breaking down the film on Sunday, resting on Monday, practicing on Tuesday, and then traveling on Wednesday is a real grind on these guys.
Oh my God.
We'll hear from Dalton Schoen in a second as well. That was my first question for him about the fatigue level, right?
Yeah. I don't want to miss out on the great debate here going on in the chat about how do you carve facial hair in a statue. I assume people are talking about the surefire statue of Mike O'Shea.
Oh yes.
In a
Yes.
few
Well, the Cal
decades.
Murphy statue and the Bud Grant statue on each corner of IG Field. Neither of them have facial hair, right? So it's tough.
You're gonna have
How
to
do you
find a
make
good
that beard?
sculptor.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Right. And
find a
is it
good
is it going to be
sculptor.
like gray cup beard Mike O'Shea,
Yeah.
or is it going to be like June beard Mike O'Shea?
Speaking of beards, I really painted myself in a corner, and I made a bet with our buddy David Asplund. He's one of our listeners, and he has a big orange beard, and I said to him, I thought I said to him, if the Bombers beat Calgary, you have to shave your beard. Actually, what I said to him is, if the Bombers beat Calgary, I'll grow my beard. So according to him, and I can't renege on a bet. I've got to grow my beard back. Now, if you read the fine print, I have a few lawyers in the family. I didn't say anything about how long I have to keep the beard, but I don't know. I shaved my beard and they beat Calgary. They beat Edmonton. I don't know, but I have to grow the beard back, folks. I'm really sorry. I know you were getting used to this nice baby face, but I don't have to keep it for long. But anyway, this isn't what people came here to talk about.
You sure?
Well, I'm not sure. Apparently, if I'm the mayor, I could talk about anything.
Right.
Well, do you want to go to the Schoen thing, or do you want me to do my sober second thought?
Quickly, I'm going to answer this one question in the live chat before your sober second thought. Sandy, who is always waiting for our show to begin 7:30
Awesome,
Tuesday
Sandy.
nights.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us as always, Sandy. Good to be with you. Is there a reason why the Blue Bombers practices are closed to the public? I see lots of other teams open. That is true. Every team in the CFL is allowed to close one practice every week. The Blue Bombers always hold one closed practice every week. On short weeks, that may be their only practice. So like this week, the Blue Bombers put out their injury report, but we don't know if a guy's on crutches or if, they're, running around, but just not practicing and it's maintenance or what have you. What we do know is that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers injury report, as it stands right now, Zach, it will be very close to what it was last week. So Jackson Jeffcoat, maybe. Greg Ellingson, maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But lots of people asking me on social media lately, Zach, for speculative insight into the Blue Bombers injuries and when guys are going to return. It's not fair to do that, so I won't. It's a educated guess at absolute best, but more of a guess than an educated one. So it is tough to do that. But yeah, no, absolutely. Other teams, they'll have a media availability the day after the game. The Bombers used to do that years and years ago. We'd meet them at the airport or go down to Canadians the next day. I know the Stampeders do that. The Redblacks, a lot of teams choose to do that. Winnipeg does not. So tough to, hey, this is the Mike O'Shea era. Do you want Grey Cup championships or do you want, information on the daily on who's injured and who's going to be 1 week, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Your sober second thought. I'm ready.
Well, I do want to give one shout out to our friend Pumper. I know he's going through some health issues. I know you gave him a shout out the other day, and I just wish the best for you, buddy. I know you want to walk your daughter down the aisle, and just hoping for the best, my friend. Thinking of you. Oh, thank you, waiters. Yes, that was my first radio interview, and I was a little nervous. I got to be honest. They
you were
get
good.
on there a few minutes ahead, and you got to listen to all the commercials. And I was just on my phone, so it was almost surreal. But Toth is great. He's a great guy, and made it easy for me. So I just. I really appreciated the kind words you and Mike had for me and Toth getting me on because he realized it's an important issue. And yeah, we'll probably talk about it another time more when we have more time in the show.
Well, I'll do it again. It's very, if you haven't read Zach's piece on 3 Down Nation about how the Winnipeg Blue Bombers helped him heal from mental health, I will put the link in the description below this video as soon as the show is done. You can find it on Zach's Twitter. You can find it on my Twitter, and in the video description of the postgame show as well. But well done, Zach.
Thank you. I
say it over and over.
Thank you, buddy. And you gave me a lot of confidence to just have a voice and trust my voice. And
you're a good writer, man. You're a really good writer.
Well, that's what everybody's
blown
saying.
Away. You are.
That's just that's what people were saying.
You weaved quite a yarn, as they say. You really did. You tied the whole story together so well. It was so heartfelt and real. I think, you almost can't go wrong when you're writing from the heart like you did. And a really important message. I sure hope everybody, if they get a chance to read it or share it with your friends and family or whomever, it's very likely. I know it is helpful for many people out there and very likely helping a lot of people as well.
Well, the amount of feedback I got back that it really did help a lot of people was the reason I did it. And I'm so glad. And hey, I'm sure there's more stories that Zach can weave together. Let's go to the game. I thought you and Mike just killed it. Like I said, Mike Still, buddy. Like this guy, I don't know where to find these gems, these Nick Kowalskis, Mike Still, and he has a nice. Yeah, well, Mike has a nice. He has a much nicer backdrop than me with a beautiful pool. Where is he?
Oh yeah.
Is he in Hollywood or Inglewood or?
Well, he joked his West Coast lifestyle. It was game day after dark, and it was still light out, so he must be on the West Coast. But no, he had a nice virtual screen there.
I'll
break the secret. My mom
was
the most
gullible guy in the world.
What house does he have? And
yeah, seriously. What's his side hustle? So I don't have too much to say about the game other than what you guys said, because I thought you broke it down really well. But again, it's the opportunistic Bombers, right? It's the red zone production. They got touchdowns and they kept Calgary to field goals, and that's execution. And it's Zach Collaros going for the jugular. He had a couple second down touchdowns in the red zone where he just launched the ball and trusts his receivers. Demsky, I mean, you and I have talked a million times about Demsky, and we've always said, and I'm particularly big on this, when Demsky is in the lineup, the Canadian Army knife, as you've coined them, Darren, it's really, really hard to stop. And I wonder if having Demsky there was something that maybe opened up the run game, as well as having Prukop there. I thought Prukop was huge. I was listening to someone say maybe it was Mike or you that they didn't even realize Calgary's defense that Prukop was on the field for one
There was
play
one
where he
play for
took off.
sure. He had no idea.
And so you were saying early on, Darren, that losing Prukop was huge, and I think you're bang on, and you saw it on Saturday night. So you had Prukop going. I think that also opens up the run game. And I loved what Mike Still said, that Brady runs best when he's angry. And apparently he was angry. He had people calling him out in the amongst
For
us
months now.
fans
For months now.
for
Yeah.
months, right? And it was nice to see Brady go off. He had a long of 31, which is a great. That's a big run. I know the 20 yards and over is a big play run. 31 is a huge. By the way, so did Kadeem Carey. So him and Carey were going shot for shot. I know Carey got the couple of touchdowns, but the other thing about the game, and just jumping off the 31, both running backs had larges of 31. The teams were really very close in terms of yardage, first downs. I mean, the Bombers were a little bit better on second down conversions. It was one of the cleanest games I've ever seen, Darren. I know a lot of people have said that. No turnovers, no sacks. Calgary had about 40 yards in penalties, pretty negligible. Winnipeg, even better, had 20 yards in penalties. And it was just the red zone, and it was Zach and the second down ability of Zach Collaros. I heard Marshall Ferguson talking about this. It just must have just pissed off those ponies, because they think they have him dead to right, even on second and long. And he finds Demsky and Wolotarski and Schoen for these big gainers.
Yeah, like Wolotarski with the tiptoe grabs, like fingertips and tiptoes.
Yeah. That was a beauty. So I thought the receivers executed extremely well. But touchdowns versus field goals was the story for me. Keeping out of the end zone in the first half. The Bombers did give up their touchdown defense streak. They gave up 2, but that's going to happen, right? Kadeem Carey's, you've talked about him he, as an elite back, as in the conversation for MOP. So we'll give him credit. But yeah, the other thing, the Bombers on second down have just been absolutely elite. And I believe Dalton Schoen has the most second down conversions in the league with 17. This is a rookie. This is when our run game isn't going. You need those second down conversions, and the team knows you're going to throw it. And Collaros finds a way to stick those in tight windows, on the run, eluding defensive linemen. It's a beauty. Like, it's beauty to watch. Winnipeg had a 10.5 average versus Calgary's 6.0 yards on second down. So I thought that was another thing. But just another classic game. And Bailey was blocking. You had Janarian Grant with a big run. But here's my question coming out of this game is, can Brady keep this up? That is my huge question. Can he keep it up? Because that's the thing. Like, Brady last year had a couple 100-yard games that first game of the season, right? But yeah, that exactly. Have they figured out the run game? And I have a couple thoughts on Dalton Schoen, but I'll let you play the clip. But what do you think? And I did want to say one more thing. Nick Hallett. He would have been my happy honker.
Nice.
I thought he was going to be a big liability. I thought there would have been a bit of a drop off there between him and Malcolm Thompson. He came up with a huge knockdown to force that Calgary punt, and then we go kick a field goal to basically ice the game.
Yeah,
I thought Nick Hallett was right in there, and just, again, unbelievable how the Bombers' second and third stringers, how people usually think, oh, this is a second or third stringer, there's going to be a big drop off, we're walking wounded. And Mike O'Shea, it's kind of like his thing. He's never going to put down a player. He expects everyone to be a starter and play like one, but they actually do. And that's the culture thing, right? Like, we kind of think it's a gimmick, right?
I think he knows if you keep that message, you're more likely to get that out of your
That's exactly what he's doing. It's like, it's psychology, and it works. And I used to roll my eyes at it, Darren, but I don't anymore, because it sticks. So just a wonderful classic title fight, man. I can't wait to see these guys go at it again. And just the last thing is I can't wait to see Calgary play BC, because these are two Western Division heavyweights. We've beaten them both, but who's going to come out on that? Come out on top there, because Calgary's only losses are to us. BC's only losses to us. The
Games in
team
Calgary.
right? The team that comes out on top of those matchups should be fascinating.
So
I mean, there's so much to say.
before that game in week 8, or pardon me, that game is in week 10. BC, or pardon me, Calgary hosting BC. The week before that, it'll be a bit of a short week for BC. They're home to Edmonton on Saturday the 6th. Calgary in Ottawa on Friday the 5th. And then those two teams play again on Saturday in Calgary. So that is going to, you're right. Whoever wins that game, I'm sure they're going to meet again one more time, if I'm not mistaken. But that is going to be a real determinant of who is going to be on Winnipeg's heels, right? They're both one-loss football clubs, presuming they'll stay one-loss football clubs. Well, I understand Calgary's lost 2. They've lost 2 to Winnipeg. But, how do you do against the rest of the league? Because nobody can really hold a candle to the Blue Bombers right now, right?
Well, they win one game throwing 7 completions, and then they put on an air show with 4 touchdowns. It's just like I said last time, like, you never know what you're going to get. I like this comment from Matt Carey, right? And I think he has a great point that, and Mike still said it great too, right? When you've got a guy like Demsky that can do that sweep or end around, and then he can run it up the gut, and then he can beat you deep, and then he can run, intermediate game, and he's got that head fake that Mike talked about so well. He's got so many weapons in his arsenal. He can turn defenders around. How do you stop them? Especially, and then you get Brady going. Like, look out if that offense clicks like they did against Calgary. And we all know Calgary is well known. Brent Monson is well known for being one of the better defensive coordinators. So what a game, what a joy. I've got to rewatch it again. I just can't wait. And back and forth, Darren? Like, so many lead changes.
Well, like I rewatched the game this afternoon, and who was it? Titus Wall? I think like Zach Collaris's first throw was nearly a pick 6 for the Stampeders.
Yes, that's right.
The game could have been a
completely. Jonathan Moxie.
It was Jonathan Moxie. Yeah. And it could have been a very, very different football game, especially early. But Winnipeg was able to not turn the ball over, and it helped keep things kind of intact. I do have a thought I want to share on Nick Demsky, but quickly, some people in the live chat talking about Johnny Augustine. And yes, he did have some touches in Calgary this past weekend, but he is on the injury list right now. That is true. But he was on the injury list last week as well. So more likely than not maintenance, unless something got aggravated in Calgary. I'm having trouble with the screen share tonight, so I'm not able to pull up the numbers and some different things, Zach. But I want to talk about Nick Demsky, and his first 2 catches in the first half both went for touchdowns. Huge. Like, he nearly had that Willie Mays basket catch too in the back corner of the end zone.
So close.
You want to know what it means when someone throws a dime? That's a dime, like unbelievable how perfect that ball was. But also very, very difficult ball to throw, but a very, very difficult ball to catch. So no knock on Nick for that. Made it up 2 plays later after Dakota Pruka picked up some short yardage. But some people have mentioned it in the live chat tonight, Zach. It is very, very true. Having Nick Demsky in the lineup is an exponential advantage. And what do I mean by that? It's not just, it's multiples. It's not just what he brings at slot back. It's what he brings in the jet sweep. It's what he brings as a decoy or as a traditional tailback between the tackles. It's what he brings as a leader. It's what he brings to the return game. It's what he brings to the huddle. It should not be overlooked how special Nick Demsky is. And I'm going to say something that might come across as controversial, but I know it probably won't if you listen carefully.
Ooh,
It was
love
a tough pill to swallow for Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans to see Andrew Harris leave Winnipeg. But I am glad the opportunity is here and now for people to realize just how special a player Nick Demsky is. He is the forefront Canadian talent on this Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. A Winnipeg native, an Oak Park High School grad, a University of Manitoba Bison product, a first-round draft pick, and somebody who chose to come to Winnipeg as a free agent. And the same way people celebrate Andrew Harris, I sure hope people celebrate Nick Demsky similarly. He's worthy of it, a truly special talent. And we're starting to see this season, last season too, he was the most outstanding Canadian in the Grey Cup. He is worth every dime he makes and more. I really wonder what those Paul LaPolice offenses of years gone by would have been like without Nick Demsky. People always say, what would it be like without Andrew Harris? I really wonder what it would be like without Nick Demsky.
And I was pointing here, Darren, because I've got him right on my. I have him. He autographed my jersey. Yeah, I love Nick Demsky. He's so versatile and just a phenomenal athlete, like Canadian or not, right? I saw someone in the chat say he could play in the NFL. Sure, I could see that. I know I can't stay too long. My wife was ravaged by my son just being an animal on our Calgary trip, just traveling with a toddler.
Oh boy.
So, you may want to go on without me at 8:30, Darren, but let me just throw in something that it's interesting that Brady Oliveira had his breakout game on a weekend where Andrew Harris had a real tough game and fumbled the ball and gave up the winning points to Ottawa. And it's in terms of storylines, I don't know if it means much. We'll see what happens next week. I do think that Andrew Harris still has juice in the tank. You've seen him go off in a couple of games, but yeah, I really hope this is Brady Oliveira coming out. And maybe sometimes psychologically those guys, maybe a switch just needs to be flipped, right? They're in their head a little bit, the pressure. I don't know, man. Maybe he just needs that anger. Go ahead.
Let's not forget that Brady Oliveira ran for 100 yards game 1 in 2021. When Andrew Harris was hurt in training camp, Brady Oliveira came bursting out of the gate like a bat out of hell. And everybody thought, well, okay, this is what Brady Oliveira is. Then the Blue Bombers offense had trouble running the football. Johnny Augustine had a couple big runs. Yeah, great. Brady Oliveira had a couple big runs in Calgary on Saturday. Collectively, Winnipeg has had trouble running the football so far this season. They've looked good at times. They ran the ball good against BC. Good time for it to happen. They ran the ball well against Calgary. Good time for it to happen. We'll see what the rest of the season brings. Zach, I said this to you many times. I said this to everybody many times early. Well, by the way, hat tip to you, Zach. 10 Bonfire Midweeks episodes we are at right now. But in episode 1, 2, and 3, what did I tell everybody about the offensive playbook? Don't expect to get into the deep chapters until later in the season. There's no point doing that. Winnipeg did things in Calgary this past weekend that they have not done all season long. Dalton Schoen was running routes I have never seen him run before. Brady Oliveira running that zone running system, those zone run schemes, very different than what I've seen before. It was between the tackles, but there was much more space made there. Is that because the Calgary Stampeders defensive line isn't good? No. It's because Winnipeg knew they needed to win this game. They knew they needed to win the season series. They wanted to stick it to Calgary on their home turf. Good time to pull out some different things. Is Winnipeg going to be doing that in this back-to-back against Montreal? Well, we're here to hear some comments from offensive coordinator Buck Pierce a little bit later. Zach, if you do have to go at 8:30, understood. I'll continue the show and we can go through some of those clips from Mike O'Shea, Buck Pierce, and Willie Jefferson as well. But Winnipeg needs to continue to run the football. We know that they stick with it, whether it works or not, because it has that advantage of opening things up. But what we saw in Calgary may be a glimpse, maybe a photograph of what they're capable of in the second half of the season.
And I always say, CFL, any team is beatable, right? There's a lot of parity, but if Winnipeg is going to run the ball that well, nobody is going to beat them. I really believe that, especially once they get some of their starters back. You can Kyrie Wilson, Jackson Jeffcoat, like, my goodness.
Brandon Alexander.
Like, wow.
Greg Ellington.
Yeah, I mean, come on. If they're running the ball on you too, and you've got Collaros, who's the best player in the league, like, it's speaking of Collaros, I'm wearing my jersey today. Also, 48 was my when my dad was born, and then he's gone, but he's always in my heart every time I talk about the Bombers. And how many yards does Zach Collaros have? 1948, baby. 1,948. I thought that was great. Let me just throw a couple comments about Dalton Schoen, and you should listen to the Handle Internally podcast from the Bombers as well. They do a nice, it was good with him. I thought it was really good. But how good is this guy, right? So he's a rookie. He has, I think I have this right, the most touchdowns in the league, third in receiving yards. He has the longest touchdown and the longest reception in the league with that 81-yarder against Edmonton. And like I said before, the one that I think is the most important, Darren, is that 17 second down conversions. And that's number one in the league. And he's also the deep threat. We talked about who's going to be the deep threat. I don't know if either of us thought it would be Dalton Schoen. I think you were onto it more than me, but Mike still confirmed it. And the stats say it too. He has the most 20-yard targets in the CFL. So he is our deep threat. And it's exciting to see, man. You would have thought maybe it was going to be Bailey or Demsky or even Ellingson, but this guy is a deep threat. And his interview was great. This guy has a master's in engineering. And he stayed a fifth year to do it in 5 years at the collegiate level. And I think he's engineering greatness. I think his attitude is good. His talent is good. And he was called, some of his teammates called him a street dog. So I think he has some.
Well, no, it was his dad. It was his father. Dad? Yeah, it says be a street dog. Have that street dog mentality. It was pretty cool. I like this question from Waiters, Zach, on Dalton Schoen and Greg Ellingson, or Kenny Lawler and Darvin Adams. What would you rather have? Well, Dalton Schoen is what, 23, 24 years old?
Oh, you keep Dalton Schoen. I mean, when you have 6 touchdowns in 8 games and you lead the CFL with a guy like Zach Collaros, and I say that because Collaros had chemistry with Bailey, he had chemistry with Ellingson, he had chemistry with Demsky, and he's throwing to this guy in double coverage, by the way. The guy and he makes tough catches. But he's on now. The thing I wanted to say was, just out of curiosity, Darren, I looked up his NFL scouting report. What were they saying about this kid? Like, because where did this guy come from? Right? He also has patience. He waited 2 years in college to get on the field.
Right?
Like, imagine that. Like, imagine how hard you've got to work and how much patience and character you need. So. Oh, man, but so the strength.
So you found Dalton Schoen's scouting report going into the NFL draft.
Yeah, so he had now here's what I don't know: 5.19 prospect grade. Maybe someone can shine a light in on that. I don't know how good that is or bad.
It's either out of 8 or 10, but I don't know.
So maybe average at best. So strengths where he's got well built with a pro frame, good speed and quickness. Average 17.1 yards per catch, pretty good. Carries, build up speed on vertical charges, consistent in working sharply back to the football. Vertical drive off the snap, looks the same every play. Flashed ability to make the contested catch. I think we've seen all of that. Here's the negatives. They say he has unusually short arms for his body type. I don't know, man. You've seen him in person. He high points the ball pretty well to me.
Looks pretty normal to me.
Yeah. They say he gets detoured by physical press in the way. Now, That may be more of an NFL thing where you see that press coverage,
It's
whereas he's
deterred
running.
by press.
Yeah,
Okay.
detoured or deterred. So
Oh,
you don't see press as much in the CFL. You see more zone defense, and you have the waggle. So it
right.
could be that could be true, but that he's
Works to his advantage here.
just it works to his advantage because maybe he's one of these guys that just thrives with waggle because he's such a good route runner and he timed
Yeah.
like. But
Picked it up
that's
quick.
another.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? This is a rookie that good at the waggle already. That's unbelievable to me. They say he lacks catch radius and hand-eye coordination needed to play in the league. Are you kidding me? This guy
Wow.
makes great catches in traffic. So I think either
I played
this
baseball and
person,
basketball, right? Like he's clearly
right,
got good eye-hand
free
coordination.
sport
Come
athlete,
on.
right? He rolls into breaks with noticeable drift. I think that means that when he breaks in his routes, it's not very sharp. He's broken guys' ankles that I've seen. So obviously, if this was true, he's worked on these things.
Hey, pro coaching, right? Pro coaching can do a
Pro
lot.
coaching. Well, and yeah, right. Another check mark for the Bombers coaching. Long strider with an extended gather phase into his breaks. So I assume that means it kind of like he kind of maybe
Slow into his
shuffles
breaks.
into his breaks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. And then isn't very aggressive or sticky as a run blocker. That one I'm not sure. I've seen him do a lot of run blocking, but I
I've seen
imagine
Rashid Bailey do a lot of run blocking. Mike O'Shea pointed him out today. Rashid Bailey, like if you're worried about Rashid Bailey's numbers, he's doing all of the other things you do not see on the broadcast. Right. He is blowing guys up. Mike O'Shea mentioned there was one play, I think it was a Drew Wolodarski catch and run, and he just pushed this guy on skates all the way down the sideline.
That was a great comment.
You know,
and on the Janarian Grant run, which was a big run, I believe in the second half, you saw Bailey just pushing guys around. And of course, Stanley Bryant was there pushing guys around. So it's something that you said at the beginning of the season, Darren. You said, look out for Dalton Schoen. You said you thought he would make the roster. And I wasn't so sure, but you were right in spades. Like this is an amazing story.
I think he made the team.
I think he made the team. You lose.
Wait, sorry, the CFL All-Star team. Hello.
Yeah. Like this guy may be in the NFL, although they may, unless they are myopic about those short arms. But I got to see that in person. I'm going to be on August 11th. I'm going to be looking very closely. Last thing I'll say, because I got to run. Sorry, folks. The family man matters, but I'm excited for August 11th, and I'm enjoying this sports interaction stuff, Darren. I don't put too many shekels down. You know, I'm reasonable. It's just fun, but I took the Bombers because I thought you got the Bombers as +2.5. Give me a break. This is going to be like a 1-point game either way, and so I won. All I do is win.
Well,
So,
whose advice are you taking?
What's this?
Whose advice are you taking?
Oh well. You know, a little of this, a little of that.
Little birdie in your ear? Little birdie in your
Maybe a birdie. And I can't wait to talk. Sorry, I got to run, folks. This little guy, you know, as many of you know, 2-year-olds do not travel well. So it's our first day back from Calgary, and I'm going to go help out my wife who's going to lose her mind. But great to see you as always. Great to see you in the chat, folks. And I will catch up with you Thursday night. Short week. In Montreal. Can the Bombers resist the temptations of that nightlife and stick it to Montreal, who looks very beatable without Chandler Worthy? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, there's your segue. Can they handle the nightlife? Find out on Bonfire after dark.
All right, Darren, thanks for understanding, man. You're a great guy. I kind of threw this on Darren last minute, and he's like, hey, dude, do what you got to do. So Darren really is a good guy. He doesn't just look like one.
I don't know. There's many who would disagree. Zach, all the best to you, man. We will see you Thursday night on
Sounds
game
great.
day after dark in the post game, but take care of your family, man. That's first things first.
I'll try. I don't know if I can handle this 2-year-old. He might be the death of me, but I'll tweet something later. All right. Good night, everyone.
Appreciate you, buddy. Zach Schnitzer needs to run, but that's okay. We will keep things going here. This is a good opportunity for you out there to jump into the live chat, drop a comment, drop a question. I'm here all alone now. Well, I'm here with you, but can definitely get to some of those questions. Do want to hear from Dalton Schoen. It is a short week for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, playing on Saturday, home, now playing on Thursday, just one practice so far this week. So I asked Dalton Schoen about, how tough it is on the guys. Where are you and the guys right now?
We're doing all right. It's definitely a grind, and we know it. I think Coach said it well. The schedule is what it is. We can't do anything about it. We can't complain about it. But at the same time, we have to be aware of it so that we know where we need to put in the extra work when it comes to getting our bodies back, especially as receivers. We got to get our legs back. We run a lot. And then also in terms of the mental prep and how much extra work you have to put in, and the tape you got to get watched, and the game plan stuff you got to study.
Being new to the CFL, what have you learned about, some of these hard fought games? You still got 3 games against the Saskatchewan Roughriders that come, but you've already, had 2 hard fought battles against the Stampeders.
I think the biggest thing I've learned is that pretty much every game is going to be hard fought. We've had a lot of games come down to the wire. Those first couple games in Ottawa, or with Ottawa, those were tough. Those were hard fought. Came down to fighting it out at the end. And like you said, the Calgary games, I think with the way the game's set up, and especially how the last 3 minutes are, a lot can happen quickly there at the end. So you never know what's going to happen. Or, we were up big in Toronto, and then it ended up being a super close game. So I think the biggest thing I've learned is that every game's going to be hard fought, and we kind of know that going into it.
Last one from me. Brady Oliveira talked about after the game how proud he was to kind of show everybody out there that he's capable of, making big plays and making big catches and big blocks and the rest. How proud are the guys or the offense as a whole that you were able to get the run game going as effectively as you did?
I think everyone's very proud of that. I think it's important as an offense to establish that run game, or win the line of scrimmage per se, and just have a balanced attack. And I think we're all confident. We know that we can do that, so it definitely feels good to go out there and do it.
Dalton Schoen speaking to the media following practice here today, being Tuesday in Winnipeg. Their only practice this week. They put out their injury report. I do apologize to you guys. I'm not able to do some screen share right now to show you the injury report for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now. But it pretty much looks the exact same as it did last week. So Jackson Jeffcoat, Greg Ellingson, amongst others who were not participating in practice, still do not know their status going into Thursday night in Montreal. With it being a Thursday night game, that means the depth chart will come out on Wednesday, and we will get a good look at how the Blue Bombers will line up. It's the 3rd of 3 straight road games. It's a short week. We're entering CFL Week 9. The Blue Bombers have yet to have a bye, so things are getting tough on the bodies and the minds, no doubt about that. Want to answer a couple questions you guys have asked in the live chat, and this is a good one to get things started. Predictions for the game this week. Well, if you look at the games this week, and then this is what I'm going to tell you guys. Encourage you guys to do. Go to sia.com/bonfire. If you sign up through this link, you help support us here at Bonfire Sports. You'll get a nice bonus, and then you can kind of play around. Bet just like $1, $2, $3 on a game. You can do that at Sports Interaction. So the Bombers in Montreal, Winnipeg 5.5-point favorites, and the over/under is 47. I like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to win outright, so you can place a money line bet on that if you so choose. 5.5-point favorites. I think Winnipeg can beat Montreal by 2 touchdowns, despite the short week, despite the travel. Winnipeg is just clicking on all cylinders right now. I don't think Montreal is going to give them too much to handle. Chandler Worthy, who already has 2 return touchdowns this season, the star returner for the Montreal Alouettes, he has been ruled out this week, so it kind of helps stabilize the threat of special teams either deciding the game or getting the Montreal Alouettes back into the game. On Friday, the Stampeders are in Ottawa, and Calgary 6-point road favorites for this game. The over-under is 50 points, so they're expecting it to be a high-scoring game. Could be some value there if you think Ottawa and Calgary might go a little bit more toe-to-toe defensively, or if you think Caleb Evans and Bo Levi Mitchell will continue to put up big numbers like they did last week. Another thing to keep in mind is Kadeem Carey. Still undetermined of what his status is for the game on Friday in Ottawa, but I believe he is definitely firmly in the conversation for CFL most outstanding player this season. Has averaged over 100 yards in each of his last 3 games, had 2 100-yard games going into the game against Winnipeg, and then finished with around 90 against the Bombers back on Saturday. A 6-point favorite for the Calgary Stampeders. Well, that's a really, really good number right there. If you think the Stamps can win by 7, that'll pay you 1.91 odds on your bet. So if you bet $10, you'll win $9.10 in addition. So Saturday is the doubleheader. It starts with the old Ballard Cup and Hamilton in Toronto to face the Argonauts. And this game, I jumped all over on Sports Interaction. The Ticats are 2-point underdogs to the Toronto Argonauts. To me, the Argos are a very, very talented team, but they are a team with the screws a little bit loose right now. Or maybe that's even an understatement. The screws could be a lot loose right now. I think Hamilton will not only cover 2 points, that they are underdogs, but I think they will win this game outright. The money line pays 2.1. So if you bet $10, you win $21 or back your way, or $1.10. $10.10 back your way. And then wrapping up Saturday in BC, the Edmonton Elks are in town. 12-point favorites. The BC Lions are at home. That is a huge, huge number, especially in the CFL. If you watch the games this year, even if you just go and scroll back and look at the scores, you don't see those huge margins of victory too often. I understand it's happened twice in Vancouver with this BC Lions team. They put the boots to Edmonton in week 1. They did the same thing with Toronto soon after that, but Edmonton has improved greatly since then. Taylor Cornelius started the season on the practice roster. He's now their starting quarterback. Trey Ford, the Canadian rookie quarterback, is 1-0 as a starter, is injured and looking like he could be an option to go in Vancouver on Saturday with 2 quarterbacks options. And what Chris Jones is able to do with his system on defense, just giving players opportunities to make plays. It's taken some time, but Edmonton is a much better team than their 2-win record. If you see value in Edmonton, either, well, frankly, just not losing by 12 or more points, you can definitely find a way to find value in that game. So go to sia.com/bonfire. It's right below there on the screen. It's in the video description below as well. And you can get a nice little bonus and support us here on Bonfire Sports. Willie Jefferson recently became the only player in CFL history with 50 sacks and 50 pass knockdowns. And it's been said over and over, but it's worth repeating. When asked to comment on that, Willie Jefferson said halfway there, looking for 100. Well, I didn't ask him about that, but I asked Willie a couple questions about going into Montreal this week, as well as looking back on a very big win in Calgary. So here is Willie Jefferson of the Dark Side Defense. Willie, how you feeling?
I'm good. Ready to fly to Montreal in the morning.
I know you guys are on to Montreal and you want to get to 1-0, but looking back to last week, if we could, beating Calgary in McMahon, them coming off a bye and never having lost coming off a bye with Bo Levi as their starter. Everybody talking about it being the heavyweight bout of the season. I know your goal is still months away, but how good did it feel to win that game?
It felt really good. You know, not too many teams have the opportunity to go into that stadium and win, especially, you know, like you said, after a bye week with Bo and things like that. So it was like the odds were kind of really stacked up against us. But you know, this season, man, we have a really good team. You know, we have a really good defense. We got an explosive offense, and we're trying to get it to where we're playing together all three phases for the whole game and not just the second half. And I feel playing against Calgary, the way we played them, the time we played them, you know, everything, like how everything stacked up, I feel like that was a great game for us. You know, we were banged up. You know, we got some guys hurt, and we still went up in there and handled business. Like it was a tight game till the fourth quarter, and then, you know, our offense did what they had to do, and the defense came up with some stops, and we came out with a win. So, you know, like I said, well, like you said, you know, them being as tough as they are at home and us being the team that we are right now in the middle of the season, you know, battle for number one in the West, and we know pretty much everything is harder in the West. So it was a good game. We got 3 weeks until we see them again here at home, and it'll be another tough test then.
Can't wait. Appreciate it, Willie. Travel safe.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
3 weeks away, and of course they're already circling their calendars. The Bombers and the Stampeders. I understand the Bombers and the Roughriders, one of, if not the best rivalry in the CFL today, but these Bo Levi Mitchell, Dave Dickinson Blue Bombers against these Adam Big Hill, Zach Kalaris, Mike O'Shea Blue Bombers, Bomber Stamps. Unbelievable rivalry between these two teams, and Saturday, a great example of just how good both of these teams are and how hard they play against one another. Both played really tight, crisp football, no turnovers in the game, not a lot of penalties in the game. It was really a war of attrition, and in the end, it came down to whoever was able to score last. I understand Winnipeg had a pretty healthy lead through the majority of the game, but it was a lot closer than the scoreboard maybe suggested. I want to get into a couple comments or questions that have hit up the live chat. And thanks to everybody who is joining us live on YouTube and Facebook. Be sure to check us out on bonfiresports.ca. If you listen to podcasts, search Bonfire Sports on your favorite podcast app. We are on pretty much all of them. So be sure to hop on there, subscribe, and give us a listen when you're cutting the grass or doing your thing away from a screen. Larry mentions the Argos are going in the wrong direction. I completely agree. That East Division that the Toronto Argonauts lead right now with a record of 3-3, wide open. And Hamilton in Toronto this week have a chance to, well, they would move into a tie in points with the Argos, but with a win over them, I believe they would at least take first place in the short term in the East Division. Fritchie, who is always joining us here on Bonfire Sports. What's going on, Fritch? Early this season, many were dumping on Winston Rose. Yeah, he had some bad games to start the season. Have we noticed his game being tightened up over the last 5? You know, Comet had a great answer to that question. Rose isn't getting killed by explosion plays anymore, but still getting caught playing soft underneath, resulting in some of those easy catches. But Booch chimes in. This is how good the live chat is here on Bonfire. Those soft underneath passes is what they are giving them, what the Blue Bombers defense is giving opposing offenses. You're right, Booch. With next to no TDs given up, that is the plan. It's working for Winnipeg. They hadn't allowed a rushing touchdown so far this season until Kadeem Carey had 2 in Calgary this past week. I don't expect Winnipeg to change up too much in the next couple weeks and with their first bye before they face the Calgary Stampeders back here in Winnipeg on Thursday, August 25th. That is going to be a great game, and what a stretch upcoming here for Winnipeg after this home and home against the Montreal Alouettes. So, of course, in Montreal on Thursday, back home against the Alouettes 1 week following on Thursday night. Then they have their first bye of the season in week 11. Winnipeg then has Calgary at home, in Saskatchewan for the Labor Day Classic, back home against the Riders for the Banjo Bowl, and then they travel to Hamilton for another Grey Cup rematch right where the game was played at Tim Hortons Field. A couple other questions that have come through tonight, and thanks to everybody sticking around after Zach's departure here on Bonfire Midweek. Sandy asks, who makes up the CFL schedules every season? Well, if you go back to our pregame show, Game Day Winnipeg, going into the game in Calgary this past weekend, you can find it on our channel and in the podcasts. Walby and I talked about this, and it's been a tough stretch for Winnipeg with the way the schedule has shaken out in this first half. No buys, lots of road games, and the rest. But the rest of the way, it looks so much better. A lot of home games and 3 buys, of course, will definitely help the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But Chris Walby mentioned on Game Day Winnipeg this past week that there was a first draft of the schedule, and that Mike O'Shea really liked that first draft. They ultimately went with a different draft of the schedule. Who makes them up? Well, there is a schedule master, presumably in Toronto, but in the CFL offices, or contracted by the Canadian Football League. Very likely a team of people that have to bring into account not just ensuring everybody plays each other and equal amount of home and road games, but the dates, the availability of the facilities, as well as travel and rest for teams if they're going from east to west. If they're going on a short week, if you play on a Thursday, you probably don't want to, have that coming after playing on a Saturday or a Sunday. I understand that happened with Winnipeg, and they've had some tough travel. But when it comes to making the schedule, there is infinite moving pieces, and of course, availability of buildings. Very, very important. But really appreciate the question, Sandy. Great one there. Comment mentioning Chandler Worthy is scary fast. Lucky for the Blue Bombers, no doubt. Fortune on Winnipeg's side with him being unavailable for this week's game on Thursday in Montreal. He is lights out and essentially stole Mario Alford's job, who is now since signed with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But he was like all-star caliber kick returner. And Chandler Worthy comes over from Toronto, takes his job, and that's pretty much the way it shaked out. Any more questions or comments, be sure to hit up the live chat. Of course, as we always do, Chris Walby is going to join me for pregame coverage, as we always do, the day before the game. So if the Bombers play on a Saturday, we're going 3 o'clock on Friday. The Bombers play on Thursday this week in Montreal. So we will be live Wednesday at 3 p.m. immediately following Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you're watching Hustler and Remus on WST, you will raid or join us directly as we jump right over. Just scouring for a couple more questions here in the live chat. And guys, without you, this channel would not exist. So be sure to go down to the video below, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe if you haven't yet. Be sure to jump into the comments, share this show with your friends and family that might be interested in doing it. I've had to teach my parents how to download a podcast or how to pull it up on YouTube, but now they've got it down and they enjoy watching and listening every week. So a couple questions here. And this one from Paul Adet, who's watching live on YouTube. Hey, DB, do you think Brandon will be back in September? Brandon Alexander had knee surgery in the days following the most recent Grey Cup, and obviously stayed in Winnipeg and has not been available. Stayed in Winnipeg throughout the winter and has obviously not been available so far this season. No word on Brandon Alexander, but the way the Blue Bombers are playing, in particular on defense, the way Nick Hallett played in his first CFL start as a third-year Winnipeg Blue Bomber, as the way Malcolm Thompson has played so far this year, there is no reason to rush Brandon Alexander back. The last thing you want when somebody has major knee surgery like that is to get them into a game or to push them in preparation for a game and have them suffer a setback because there's probably no coming back for that. So better to have him down the stretch when you really need him than try to get him in a week or two early. So September, who knows? We will see. But of course, as they say, after Labor Day is when the season really, really starts. We got people watching in the territories. Very cool. Thanks for joining us here on Bonfire Sports. Just spinning through the comments here to see if we got any other questions. The hats. I know everybody. Really working hard to get Chris Walby a triple XL t-shirt. And get some hats made up for the fans. I know you guys have been clamoring for them, working hard to do that. A little bit down the priority list right now, but we are going to do everything we can to get those available to you out there. All of you who are supporting Bonfire Sports, really appreciate that as well. Waiters asked if I'm surprised by the Raheem Wilson release by the Calgary Stampeders today. Absolutely, I am. This is somebody who was just battling back from injury and was able to get into the lineup in Winnipeg's first game against Calgary a few weeks ago. Played pretty well from what I saw rewatching the game today. Had one coverage bust, but then made up for it. Had a very good play on a tackle later in the game. Raheem Wilson is a veteran and talented defensive back in the CFL. Always surprising when you see a starter cut from a team suddenly, especially a team like Calgary that's going through a little bit of injury bangs and bruises right now. One thing is for sure, football is about recycling. Football is about stealing ideas. It will not be long. Raheem Wilson will be unemployed. I expect him to sign somewhere very, very soon. Larry mentioning that the Blue Bombers scouting is lights out. Keep bringing in big time players. Somebody else was asking about Danny McManus, if he was involved in the Dalton Schoen signing. He was. Dalton Schoen mentioned that this week. He was on the Handled Internally podcast with Darren Cameron and Ed Tate of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Really interesting listen, really interesting young man Dalton Schoen is. And it was Danny McManus who found him, identified him, and tried to bring him to the CFL. Small spoiler from that interview. Dalton Schoen had watched the Canadian Football League, saw the motion of the receivers, but when he came to Canada, he did not know there were 12 players on offense and 12 players on defense, one more than the NFL and college football, until he had the Blue Bombers playbook. And he started looking through and he's like, oh, there's 12 guys on the field. Okay, well, this kind of makes sense why, these strange things are happening offensively. That all said, very, very insightful interview and entertaining listen. So be sure to check that out. I think you can find it where most podcasts are found. Vicky, who always joins us here on Bonfire Sports, having a full season. It's really strange. We don't play each team 2 times. They seem to be slanting it so East plays East and West plays West more times. Don't want all the East time with no wins. I think you mean wins, or I think that's what Vicky meant. A balanced schedule would be something I think worth exploring. The Canadian Football League has always been about basing things on tradition. It is a new era, and you do need to ensure that you don't get too kind of stuck in your ways, because you do want to compete and be a valuable entertainment product and compete with other things out there, sports or otherwise. Is one division coming to the CFL? Like, will that day come where there's no East and West? There is no crossover between divisions. I'm not sure. I think if a 10th team comes into the league, which odds are right now not looking too likely, at least in the near future, if that 10th team comes in, I could see them sticking with East and West for a while. I understand it. It has been very, truncated, very slanted towards the power being in the West Division and some weaker teams being in the East. But if the Canadian Football League remains at 9 teams for a while, I think it might come down eventually to be like, okay, we have to make a change. We have to make it a balanced schedule, make it a 9-team, 1 division, 1 conference, 1 league, and then have a balanced schedule where if it's 9 teams and you play 18 games, you can play every team twice, once at home and once on the road. It all makes sense. But of course, the Canadian Football League and its board of governors and its rules committee all need to decide on that. But hey, you're the fans out there. If that's what you want, make your voice heard. It's easier than ever in today's day and age of social media and electronic communication to be able to do that. Just continuing to scroll through here and see if there's any more questions from people in the live chat. Yeah, Waiters, you're right. We did used to think Brendan Taman was the best for scouting. He built some very, very good football teams here in Winnipeg, came very close to winning some Grey Cups, went on to Saskatchewan where he was able to win a Grey Cup and on home turf as well. I don't think the Roughriders are looking too likely right now to be in that game or win that game, of course, in Regina, Grey Cup 109 this coming late November. Yeah, Brandon Rodriguez, who's watching live on YouTube, kind of agrees, wish they'd get rid of the East and West and focus on and just do a 1 and 2 for the playoff, and then 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 with 1 and 2 getting the buys. Yeah, the crowds in Toronto, I know this auto-corrected, or oh no, you got it right there. Pardon me. What kind of the crowds the Argos are getting? They look very sparse on TV. Something to keep in mind in Toronto, and I know this is strange, but all of the camera banks, similar to IG Field, they're on the west bank of the stands. Similarly, in Toronto, they sell 10,000, 12,000 tickets to a game. The majority of those people sit on the same side as the television cameras. I know it doesn't make any sense. I know that's frankly stupid, but that's the way it is. So often it'll look like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people at in Toronto. But the reality is that 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 you're looking at on TV is doubled on the other side. So the crowds struggle in some of those markets. You can put Calgary in there with BC, Vancouver, and Toronto, the historical large markets that don't do too well with attendance. But that said, Vancouver looks to be turning things around. New ownership, new lifeblood, a new exciting football team. They're looking to turn the corner and get those season ticket numbers up and get the crowds up at a beautiful stadium that they have in BC Place. Calgary had Family Day, and as you saw, Kadeem Carey's son on the TSN broadcast introduce his father, which was a very cool moment that they talked about on the broadcast. Calgary is working very, very hard to get back to where they need to be in the 20,000 attendance range. To see 25,000 on Family Day is a great thing. Hopefully those people take away a great experience. And while it was a great football game, I understand the home team didn't win, but they gave the best team in the land and the two-time defending Grey Cup champs a run for their money. So you never know. The Canadian Football League seems to kind of go on ebbs and flows, but you hope Family Day can kind of retain and keep some of those younger fans for years to come. Waiters, that's a good question about what rule change it would be if it could make one rule change. I'll have to think about that one and get back to you. Donnie Boy, who's watching live on YouTube, says, did Tavares Harrison get any touches last game? I don't believe he did. I'm just going to pull up the numbers here. He didn't. So I don't even know if he came into the game. He's a Blue Bombers practice roster receiver that has dressed for 2 games now and has not been targeted in the Blue Bombers offense. Big body, has some good length to him. Kind of reminds me of a taller Clarence Denmark if I had to kind of describe his body type. But interesting to see today, the Blue Bombers made 2 small roster moves. They released an American offensive lineman as well as an American quarterback, Joe Mancuso, who was holding for Mark Leggio in games and running some of that short yardage as well. Both released from the Blue Bombers practice roster today. So that tells me that they could be getting some guys healthy again. They'll start putting players like, say, a Tavares Harrison, rookie in the CFL this year, take him from the active roster, put him on the practice roster, and then you can activate Greg Ellingson, just an example, not saying that he will be activated, but we will know by tomorrow morning, by Wednesday morning, when the Blue Bombers come out with their Week 9 depth chart. So anytime you're making room on the practice roster, always an indication that some players are getting back to health. WST Hollywood Audio Gremlin says or asks, do we know how close Michael Couture is to being back? I see Michael Couture on the field and has that cast on his broken left arm. Very likely he is closer to returning than being a good stretch away, but placed on the 6-game injured list, still has a couple weeks to go, I do believe, on the 6-game. Broken bones are tough. It depends where it happens on the arm. Like if you break a bone down by the wrist, less vascular area, I've been told by doctors. I am not a doctor in any way, shape, or form, but I've been told by orthopedic surgeons that, those vascular injuries or injuries that happen in less vascular areas, like closer to the wrist here, you know what, I'll get that comment out of the way and then we can see a little bit, closer to the wrist can be a tough injury to come back from. If he breaks the arm a little bit higher up where there's more muscle and more flesh, more blood gets to it. It's more vascular and can heal quicker. So not speculating on when Michael Couture will come back, but just stating what we do know. As of right now, we do not know when he could come back. But hey, Chris Kolinkowski has played fantastic. Rewatching the game today, there were a couple times where, you see him calling out the defenses and communicating and pointing. Things are working. And I've seen him, make some very key blocks in the run game in particular. So, to do that against a good defensive line, not like the Calgary Stampeders have, no reason to rush anybody back. The Blue Bombers offensive line as it stands right now looks pretty good. Yeah, I agree with you, Fritchie. The Argos need to take out a page out of the book that BC has in getting fans out to games. I sure hope BC is able to continue to build. I hope Calgary and Montreal are able to continue to build. Montreal has new ownership. If you follow him on Twitter, Gary Stern, a very entertaining guy, like Zach and I were talking about a little bit earlier in the show. Very entertaining guy on social media, diehard fan of the team he owns in the Montreal Alouettes. Yeah, so maybe check him out. It's been fun. So Itchy and Scratchy the Barbarian. Great name, by the way, watching live on YouTube. DB, are you worried about the CFL's future with the XFL and their TV deals? No, I'm not worried about the Canadian Football League's future. I understand there is a lot of money and a lot of publicity currency. And by currency, I mean in just the magnetism and the celebrity status of someone like The Rock. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of cachet and a lot of promotion because of The Rock and Redbird Management Group that owns the league and purchased the league off of Vince McMahon and WWE. But no, I'm not worried about the Canadian Football League because it's been able to exist without that, huge 900-pound gorilla in the room that is the multi-billion-dollar business of the National Football League. I understand the XFL is going to be playing a schedule that will have more of a conflict with the CFL, but this is what I know about football. The XFL is 8 teams as it stands right now, and the Canadian Football League is 9 teams. So that's 4 XFL games a week, and that's 4 CFL games a week. That's half of the early season schedule in the NFL. Half. So if there is an appetite for football, there will be appetite enough for the XFL and the CFL to exist together. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I don't see the CFL has gone through much, much worse times than this. I've read some books on the era of the Canadian Football League and their expansion into the United States in the mid 1990s with Danny McManus and Kent Austin quarterbacking the BC Lions against a very, very talented Baltimore Stallions / CFLers team. But either way, the CFL has been in very, very tough spots before. I think they're going to be just fine, even with a little bit of competition down south. It's going to be an American, big time American product. I don't see a lot of CFL fans going, oh, there's XFL football. I'm not going to go to CFL games anymore, or not watch their favorite team on TSN or whatever it may be. Andrea, I totally agree. The Calgary Stampeders need a new stadium terribly bad. I talked to Dave Dickinson, head coach of the Stampeders, a couple years ago, not just about their stadium, but about the city of Calgary and how he was blown away that, Winnipeg and even Regina and Saskatoon and Edmonton, they have all of these indoor soccer and football facilities. Winnipeg has built a lot over the last number of years. And Calgary doesn't even have those. So for the Stampeders, nowhere for them to really practice indoors. I think they do have one option, but it's not maybe the best facility for them. Toronto struggles a little bit with their practice facility, that sort of thing. So, no doubt Calgary needs some infrastructure to get things going. Waiters is right. Saskatchewan has had some empty seats this season. There was a postponed game. Of course, that COVID postponement against the Toronto Argonauts went from a Saturday to a Sunday. So a lot of their rural season ticket holders, have a 2 or 3 hour drive into Regina for the game, or a 2.5 hour drive from Saskatoon down to Regina for the game. So it's tough on a Sunday to do that. If it's Sunday afternoon, fine, like the Labor Day Classic or what have you, because you still have time to get home and get to bed at a reasonable hour. If it's a 6 or 7 o'clock start, and I believe it was a 6 o'clock start that day against Toronto, 6 o'clock local, of course, tough for them to get to that game on a Sunday, get home, and then be able to go to work on Monday morning. So yeah, some empty seats in Saskatchewan. I don't see that being an indication of anything being a much more major problem. Andrea chiming in, yeah, absolutely. The gas prices probably discourage some fans from attending the games as well. I can't imagine coming into Regina for a game on the weekend, like many Blue Bombers fans do. You make the drive out, and then suddenly the game is postponed to a point where, okay, I can't even make it to this game without getting, being late for work on Monday morning. So hopefully that didn't affect too many fans who were driving in for that. Yeah, so Corey May says, what works in the West can work in the East as far as drawing fans. It seems like Toronto tries one year and then not so hard for a few. I don't know. There's a whole other podcast available, or what would, not even cover a fraction of, some of those issues in Toronto. So we'll have to kind of leave it there for now. Paul asking if the Bisons are going to be a force this year in U Sports football. I think they are. I don't know too much about how their offseason has gone. I can tell you this. The Winnipeg Rifles junior football team had an awesome offseason. A lot of players coming back. They are getting new facilities at Maple Grove Rugby Park. That's the St. Vital Mustangs field in the south end of the city near the perimeter and St. Mary's Road. They're putting in a field turf stadium. They've got new uniforms that we've yet to release to the public. Full disclosure, I am the play-by-play voice of the Winnipeg Rifles junior football team and a member of their board of directors. So I am a little bit biased, but objectively speaking, to people in Saskatchewan and in Alberta and in BC, all where the Winnipeg Rifles play in the Prairie Football Conference against a whole bunch of teams from 2 in Edmonton, 2 in Saskatchewan, 1 in Calgary, and 1 in BC as well, that the Winnipeg Rifles are expected to make some serious noise this year. And the Prairie Football Conference Championship game will be hosted in Winnipeg. So the Rifles and head coach Jordy Wilson fully expecting to be there as well. This is a good question from Waiters. Who's been the defensive player of the year so far? That is a great question. You could go a lot of different directions right now, but I'll put it this way. When you work in the media, you have conversations that kind of cover everything around a team. And we talk about best case scenarios. Like 3-4 weeks ago, we were talking about like, when do you start talking about an undefeated season without, jinxing anything? Well, the guys, the panel on TSN are talking about an undefeated season right now. I felt you need to get to double digits. You need to get to 10 wins before you start talking about going 18-0 in a season. But in having those conversations, you have the conversations of the good, you have the conversations of the bad. Everybody knows the one player on the Blue Bombers offense that they could not be without. The one player on the defense that I personally believe the Winnipeg Blue Bombers could not be without is Adam Bighill. So he gets my vote right now for the Blue Bombers' most outstanding defensive player as we're at the half season mark. Of course, Thursday night when they wrap up in Montreal will be the official midway point for the Blue Bombers with 9 games in the books and 9 to go as well. Lots of people talking about gas prices in the live chat, which is kind of funny. But is Commonwealth Stadium a white elephant? No, it was opened a long time ago. It's got capacity for a lot of seats. But Edmonton just needs to get back to winning football games. And surely I believe in Chris Jones. I believe he is a smart enough football mind that he will be able to turn it around. Love him or hate him, I get it. But the reality is he knows how to build football teams, knows how to acquire talent, and knows how to win. So I expect Edmonton to be able to turn their franchise around. Reminds me of Winnipeg 8, 9, 10 years ago, where they were very, very hard strapped to win games at home, like the Edmonton Elks have really struggled to do as of late. Gregory, love to get to a Rifles game. No public transportation to that area of the city. I do believe you can take a bus to the perimeter on St. Mary's Road and then can walk right into the rugby park and check out a game. I could be mistaken, but you let me know. I know you will if I'm wrong there. This is interesting. Waka Waka. I don't know. Is that Fozzie Bear? What gives? No Bombers plays in the CFL plays of the week. 3 Ticats plays. Yeah, I mean, Winnipeg kind of just played, rock solid football. A 20-yard, what was it? A 31-yard Brady Oliveira run. Is that going to make the plays of the week? Maybe not. Drew Wolotarski second down conversion catch, keeping his toes in bounds. Maybe on a quieter week, but there were a lot of entertaining plays in CFL week 8. So, hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Your team's 8-0. Don't feel too bad about that. How about this? Sandy mentioning that TSN replaying the Winnipeg-Calgary game at 9:30 tonight. A lot of people I've noticed don't know this. Here is a bit of a secret for you. You don't have to wait until 9:30. If you subscribe to TSN, you can go to tsn.ca, sign in with your cable credentials. That is, whether you're with Shaw or MTS or satellite, whatever. If you pay for TSN and you pay to watch TSN3, the Jets games, the Bomber games, whatever, you can go to tsn.ca and at the top it says live. You can click on that and then watch games on demand. You can find it in there. Google it. Very easy to do. I've run into so many people, especially with these last couple weeks, where they've been at the lake and they come home and they're like, oh, I want to watch the game, but I can't find it. I don't have PVR. I can't find it on the PVR. And, I'm kind of out of luck. Go to tsn.ca. You can rewatch the games. Yeah, thanks for the tip, Sandy. Absolutely. I appreciate that tip as well. Sometimes it is nice to kind of watch it organically without, hitting the PVR and jumping around too much. Corey says, sorry for the curveball. No worries there, man. It's always good to get into the live chat with you guys. And how about this? Zach's been gone for 45 minutes and, we just been having fun here. I might have to have a cup of tea at the end of this one. I will grab a sip of water. Give me a second, folks. But I'm having a blast, but Walby and I are going to do this again tomorrow. We're going to go live at 3:00 on game day, Winnipeg, get into the pregame show ahead of Bombers and Alouettes on Thursday, as we always do the day before the game, live at 3:00 right here on Bonfire Sports. If you haven't yet, subscribe. And when you subscribe, a little bell will pop up on the screen. And if you click that bell, you'll get a notification on your phone. It'll let you know when we are live with Bonfire Midweek, Game Day Winnipeg pregame show, Game Day After Dark, post-game show, Bonfire in the dark. Yeah, a little bit in the dark here. Let's see if we can fix that. How about that? Oh, there we go. Now we're back in business. You guys can see my vintage early 1980s Smythe Division, Norris, and the, the rest pucks on the plaque there. That was in the old family business of mine. My grandfather, my father, my uncle used to own a hotel, and in the beverage room, the old beverage room, they called it, where there'd be spilled draft and shuffleboard wax all over the place. That was on the wall there for many, many, many years. And the story I've been told about this plaque is that it was from 1983. And when you would go to Texaco, oh yes, you go to Texaco and fill up your tank, the old Texaco gas stations, they would give you a puck when you filled up your tank at Texaco, and then you could kind of like order the wood plaque, and they would send that to you, and you could put all the pucks on there. But all of those are screwed on old school style with drywall screws mounting them there. I guess that's how they did it back in the day. Anyway, needed to spruce up the Bonfire Studios a little bit. Recently moved Bonfire Studios lately, so just trying to get things back to interest for the eyes out there watching along. Appreciate everybody who is continuing to watch us here. Max, my eyes, yes, I know suddenly you can see my face for radio after 10 years with TSN Radio. I learned that full well. Here's a question from waiters I get from a lot of people. Do you and Walby consider doing post-game shows last season? I watched the pregame. Well, this is the challenge. Chris Walby often works the Blue Bomber games. Wade Miller will bring him into IG Field. He'll get on the Jumbotron, with Gabrielle Marchand or whoever the in-stadium game host is, and go around, sign some autographs, take some pictures. The guy is truly a legend from North Winnipeg, and the greatest to ever play offensive line in the CFL. I'm going to call him the greatest Canadian to ever do it. Stanley Bryant, probably the greatest American in both Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Guys on the offensive line, blue collar, getting dirty and getting the job done, just like so many hardworking people here in Southern Manitoba. But we considered doing a post game. It just wasn't able to work because Walby was at the games or heads out to the lake on the weekends. Got to shout out his beautiful wife, Vera. She is just a lovely person, and it's so pleasant to talk to and see when I do see her. Her patience has no bounds for Chris, and him staying in town a little bit later when the Bombers play on a Saturday night or even a Sunday, and we do the pregame the day before. So Walby's a little bit tied up with the postgame, but hey, Mike Still, Zach Schnitzer, who has joined me for the majority of them this season. Taylor Allen is filled in on our most watched post-game show ever. We have tons of fun on Game Day After Dark. If you haven't checked us out after the Bombers play, you can download the podcast. You can watch it well afterwards. But if you join us live, like hundreds of people do, we get things going just about 15, 20 minutes after the game. I like to hear from head coach Mike O'Shea, and then we go live to air and kind of get things going. The Bonfire basement, no longer in the basement. I've got a nice view over some trees here, which definitely helps the longer days in the lab here, as I like to call it, the Bonfire Sports Studios. Great questions. Comment mentioning what a lot of people would like to do: drink champagne out of the Grey Cup. Sandy, GoFundMe for the electric bill. I would appreciate that. It can get racked up when you got all this technology going on. No, I kid, of course. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah, everybody who joined us today, appreciate you a lot. Zach, very busy family man. He has a beautiful, gorgeous family, a lovely wife, Maya, and two beautiful kids. His son is a handful. His daughter is hilarious, and so much fun when I do go over there and visit them. But of course, he had to go family first, as always. But Zach will join me on the post game day after dark. We'll get that going 15, 20 minutes after the final whistle in Montreal on Thursday. But you don't want to miss the pregame. That's when me and Chris Walby get things going tomorrow. That's Wednesday, live at 3:00 immediately following Winnipeg Sports Talk. Well, how about that? There he is right there in the live chat, the man himself, my co-host, Zach Schnitzer. Hi, everyone. Miss you. My son is asleep, but I need a few more minutes as he likes to listen for the dang door, says Papa Schnitz. Well, I hope you and your whole family sleeps well tonight. I know I will after talking for the better part of 2 hours straight. Last question, so often from waiters. Wonder if the Bombers and Jets play at the same time this season. Bonfire, Kenny and Rennie, will we go up against each other? That's a good question. I have yet to cross-reference all of those games. I'm going to be working Manitoba Bison's volleyball and basketball games at the Investors Group Athletic Center this winter. Writing for NHL.com, doing Bonfire Sports. We're going to get some hockey coverage going here on the channel this year to add to the awesome roster of hockey that we have here in Winnipeg by so many people in the more mainstream media. Tons of fans out there have some great podcasts and videocasts, webcasts as well. But Kenny and Rennie, A Legal Curve, Hustler, and Michael Remus, such a great community of people we have here in Winnipeg to serve you, the fans out there. Really looking forward to that. But I'm going to have to cross-reference those Jets and Bombers games. I don't believe there's any conflicts, but we will make it work. Kenny and Rennie, good friends of mine. We're all really close and supportive of one another, all of us. Hustler, Illegal Curve, and Bonfire Sports. So we're looking forward to this all continuing. I'm glad Corey May just mentioned this. Who sells CFL trading cards? If you Google Sports Cards Winnipeg, you're going to be able to find some of those. But I'm actually working right now on a little bit of a promotional agreement. So I won't mention anything yet, but I would love to open up some CFL Upper Deck cards that just came out a week or two ago. There's some very, very cool cards in there. It'll throw me back, 30 plus years ago when I was a kid, or maybe 25 plus years ago when I was a kid, and, in my early teens, loving sports cards, hockey cards, football cards, and the rest. Upper Deck has a beautiful new set out, and I would love to get some of those on the channel here. Yeah, Paul, I totally agree with you. Paul Adet says the live chats are the best thing to happen for fans. You're immediately involved. You are part of the show, and we appreciate you so, so very much. But Zach is mentioning, should he rejoin? Well, Zach, I can barely speak. So we're going to leave it there for tonight. But thank you, my friend, for joining me as always. And to everybody out there, still tons of people watching in the dozens. Thanks so much for your support. Get down there, like this video, subscribe, copy the link, send it to your friends, send it to your parents, send it to your grandparents, send it to your cousins, anybody out there who you think might enjoy. We really, really do appreciate it. The more support we get, the more content we're going to be able to produce for you here on Bonfire Sports. Okay, we'll leave it there. Waiters, you're right. As always, 3 p.m. tomorrow, we will see you for the pregame show. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And we will see you tomorrow and postgame on Thursday. But next time here, Tuesdays at 7:30 on Bonfire Midweek. I'm Darren Bombing. And for Zach Schnitzer, we'll see you next time. half of your schedule behind you or in the books in just a matter of 2 days. How impressive is it, or have you ever seen a receiver in his first year of pro football play like the way he does? And how stabilizing has that been with, some of the injuries your receivers have gone through?
Yeah, I mean, Dalton right away from camp, you could tell there was something about him, even his, college tape, some of his NFL work. We were excited to get him here into the building, and guy took every rep at camp. Played multiple spots. Showed up in shape. Hasn't missed a beat. Very high football IQ. He's getting better and better each week, with just understanding the CFL game, right, and understanding how to play the receiver position. So that's been awesome to see. Also with Dalton, he's able to give us some flexibility as well. When you have a guy that can do multiple things and move around here and there, it opens everybody else up as well, right? So there's a lot of things that he does well for us, and we're continuing to learn more about each other, and hopefully get better each week. But he's been a very good pro in what's been his rookie season in the CFL, and I think that's the most impressive thing is he works hard, he's humble, and he's excited about the process, and I think he loves playing with the guys.
Tell me what goes into facing the Montreal Alouettes defense, a team that moved on from their defensive coordinator just a few weeks ago. Does that add a wrinkle to game planning for a team? Tough for the layman, us on the outside to see if there's huge differences in that Alouettes defense. But does that pose a bit of a challenge, or are they kind of playing the same system that they have all season?
Well, I think every first time you play a team, it's the first go back to back, and we've seen them on tape, but every team plays you a little bit different, so there's always a little bit of that every week. But then you look at what they're doing, defensively. The one thing I'll tell you about a Nothorpe defense is they're going to play hard. They're going to be physical. They're going to want to get after the quarterback. They pride themselves on the physicality up front, and like I told the guys today, we got to go out there and be ready to play one of our most physical games of the season. So we know those things about them. And I'm sure he's continuing to learn his personnel over there, and what they want to be. So we got to be prepared. Worry about our focus, our execution, and how we handle ourselves, and just trying to go out there and play a clean game like we did last week.
Goes into a week like this where you're not able to maybe practice as much as other weeks?
I mean, the players have a great understanding of what they're doing. We've been in this situation before. I think you rely on your prep from previous weeks. You rely on your fitness level that you've been maintaining for, since before you got to training camp. So really it's take great care with your bodies, make sure you're well rested, make sure you're putting the right things in your body, and just make sure you're physically ready to go.
A lot has been said about this stretch of 3 road games and the buys and the rest, but is this kind of a dig deep time for the team?
I don't think so. Once again, I think the guys have a great understanding of how to handle a pile of different situations. They've been building this for a number of years, right? So it just kind of rolls along. I'm not sure that's digging deeper than any other week, right? If you don't play your best, somebody's going to beat you no matter what. So buys, time off, days off, all that stuff doesn't really enter into a lot of discussion.
That's impressive. You got any health update for us? Anybody in and out this week?
The CFL mandated injury report will be released sometime later today.
I'm waiting with bated breath. Thank you.